educational process for Toyota.
Well, I'm sure there isn't a team here that doesn't worry about their gearboxes. Even the 911 Porsches and GT2 had some problems in practice with their gearbox, their new sequential change gearbox, and the GT1 Works Porsches have had some problems fitted. Oh, look at this.
Big problems for the Mercedes. That is Schneider crawling down the track. That is just past pit out. He is pulling into pit out. Now the question is, since he's meant it, can he get, if he rolls back into pit lane, can he then be assisted and be helped?
I don't believe you're allowed to roll backwards.
Let's go down to Calvin.
Okay, well, Bernd Schneider is sitting at pit out right now. It's going to be interesting to see what the rules allow, whether they can actually back into pit lane, or once he's past the pit entrance, whether he's got to get all the way around. Obviously, a big problem with the car. It does look like there's enough room. Martini now is out of the BMW pit, but he's got to pull back in. Very dangerous there, very high-speed part of the track. You just saw the Toyota go by. We're going to try and get a little closer here, guys, so come back to us.
We will. Interestingly, you can see Schneider wanting nothing more than to roll back into the pit lane, and the marshals stopping him and pushing him further out the pits. Getting instruction now. I bet he's fuming inside that cockpit.
I'd be very surprised if Le Mans regulations allowed a car to go backwards any length.
No, you can push the car out of a dangerous position, and it might just have I just wonder if that's a transmission problem there. Transmissions were the talk of qualifying. It is a very tough race on the drivetrains here, and those marshals pushing the car out there, well, something is it could of course be an electronic problem.
But talking about transmission and drivetrain, gentlemen, we were talking, well, let's go back right down to Calvin. He's there. Calvin?
Okay, well, they're pushing him right to the very end. There is a little access road here. Be interesting to see if Bernd gets out of the car, and then obviously if he'll be willing to talk to us, but I'm sure he's in radio communication with his team. And it wouldn't surprise me to see a flurry of activity here shortly, whilst they get the Mercedes crew down here, but there is oil coming out of the back end of the car as they bring it around. Not a big pull, but certainly some problem there in the drive line.
Well, as we were talking about a number of times, when we watch him go through some of these turns, he was really up on the curbing, and that is very hard on driveline components. Davy Jones now standing by with Yost.
Yes, both Yost cars came in together at the same time, and it appears that James Weaver's going to stay in for a third stint. No tire change, fuel only. But Michele Alboreto has departed out of the car. Stefan Johansson is going in, and they are going to change tires.
Again, Johansson now behind the wheel, and Weaver, as Murray told us when he was up here, they intended James to do 3 stints and start replacing, so obviously they're staggering things just a little bit, working on getting Johansson buckled in. Very distinctive helmet. Now back at the site of the Mercedes problem for the number 35 entry, and the door is up. Let's see if Schneider steps out, Andrew.
I would say that this car is history, to be honest. You see that sort of thing. They can't crawl it back to the pits. They can't push it back there. The only person allowed to work on that car is the driver, and Schneider is reasonably technically minded. He might be able to change the ignition box or something, and we'll try and check out what's happening. Davey, what can you, Calvin, what can you see down there?
Well, unfortunately, the officials won't let us any closer to the cockpit area of the car. As you said, the door is up. There's a very small trail of oil coming from the right side of the car. I cannot see any damage, and it looks like it may be coming from an oil cooler or something in the side pod area of the car, but Schneider's obviously still talking to his team. They're trying to make a decision on what to do, as Andrew said, and Schneider's getting out now. It looks like he's asking the officials whether they can push the car back, and it could be over for this Mercedes, one of the favorites in this race. This is big news in the early going.
Yeah, it certainly is, Calvin. When it got to you, was the engine actually running? Let's go back down to Yost with Davey.
Yes, they got the tail cover off the back of the car, and they appear to be checking all the boost fittings. Like perhaps he might have a problem with the boost, but they checked it all. The tail cover's going back on. They're very anxiously trying to get him going. And at the same time, there seems to be a little bit of an overflow leak coming out of the back, which I don't think it's anything that they're really alarmed about at the moment. But what's interesting is that they changed all 4 tires. And normally in the past, you tend to stay on the same compound tire for at least 3 stints. So it appears to me that they're running a softer Goodyear compound tire.
And the Yost machine back out. Johansson behind the wheel, but let's go right back down to Calvin. Finish, Cal.
Bernd, what happened out there? The car was running so strong, and then suddenly you pulled off.
That was the rear, and And that lever no more power, I don't know. Then I switched off the engine.
The officials would not let you bring the car back to the pit area. It has to go all the way around the track. Is that correct? They will not let you back the car up for work to the car?
That's why the car parked here, finished.
Okay, well, it looks like the day is over for Bernd Schneider, and a big upset here early.
Tremendous upset, and the frustration for Schneider. I mean, for a minute there, he was no longer a race car driver. He was diplomat trying to plead a case with the officials. They had none of it. The lone Riley and Scott Ford, by the way, in the pit lane system.
Yeah, and you notice as he tried to plead his case, a very good point there, he was unable to do so in French, which hurts here sometimes in these multilingual situations. It's very helpful to know the language of the organizers.
Good indication of the media focus here with all of the manufacturers here. We've been talking about that story. It's huge. Look at the throng.
Just analysing what he said, Sam, what do you think really is the problem there?
I think it's a very serious problem. It's going to affect the other car.
Yeah, the other car is currently running down about 8th place right now. Just they're checking it out on the screen. Yeah, it's actually in 9th place.
I mean, the implication was it has something to do with the rear end as a result of more power. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Calvin, can we go back to you? It was difficult to hear what he was saying. He was speaking through the crash helmet there. What did he actually say to you? Just reiterate it.
Well, it was difficult for me as well, Andrew. A lot of noise here right on the front straightaway. The car's going by, but essentially he said there was a problem in the drive lane of some type. It happened all of a sudden, and he can't get the car back, so the day's over for that Mercedes.
I think what we need to focus on a little bit is, one, if you remember, he was up on the curbs working the car hard, pitted 2 laps prior to his teammate who went the full 13 that they were hoping for. And when you're conserving fuel, you, by nature, don't you, you conserve car.
Well, he was definitely acting as the rabbit for the team. There's no question about that. But still in all, to have it go out so soon, I mean, these cars are tough. They're certainly meant to take a good deal more than that. Here is the leader, who, of course, has just gotten a huge break in, because of the problems hitting the Mercedes, and also the leader of the 2 BMWs.
Only about an hour and 20 minutes in.